Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a very large and potentially very impactful winter storm that will be occurring really now less than 1.5 days out, around 1 to 2 days out, still depending on kind of your location across the southwest. It's already kind of occurring, but the southwestern United States, that is. And it will be tracking through the plains into Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, Missouri. You can see we do have a large area of winter storm watches. We do have very cold air as well available for this storm. So really, the snow probably won't be a super wet snow, so it's gonna be a fluffier snow. So the snowfall amounts could be higher. You can see we do have wind chill watches, which is usually issued for very cold air across Nebraska into Kansas, across Montana as well. And we do also have a flood potential with this system. So there's a lot of stuff to go over, a lot of stuff to track. And I do also want to say that, yes, while there is most likely to be a swath of snow across this kind of area from this storm, there is also an increasing chance that there could be a second one towards the coast into the mid-Atlantic and up the kind of northeast right there in this area that I drew right here. And yes, so if you're kind of in this vicinity, just stay tuned, as this is some recent updates that the models just started to kind of bring in. So before we get into this, I do want to remind you guys that this is just a hobbyist channel, obviously, for official weather data and official weather info. Always refer yourself to the National Weather Service. They have the best info, best data, and we don't argue with them or anything like that. I just kind of put my own interpretation on it. And if you do enjoy these type of channels, right, there's a bunch of them on YouTube. Consider subscribing to this one. Consider checking it out. I do this almost daily, and it's just very fun for me to do. And if you feel like watching, why not, right? And if you have any comments or concerns, please leave them down below. Okay, so first off, let's start off by looking at the GFS model. And this is the most latest model run. This is the noon one, right? Usually I record this further in the afternoon, but today it's just a bit earlier when I had my time. And let's see how this unfolds. So notice that right now, as I mentioned already, this is already occurring across portions of the southwest and northwest. We have that piece of northern energy that will kind of phase with the southern piece. It is bringing a lot of rain across cities like Los Angeles. If you're living across the southwest, if you're seeing rain, it's from this future winter storm. I keep saying potential, but most likely at this point it's gonna occur. It's not really a potential. That was probably a few days ago. And the storm, yes, it's still on track. Notice these two things as we put this into Friday, right? So tomorrow we see rain and snow spread into Mexico, into southwest kind of Colorado, the Four Corners area, if you will. And then notice we see a lot of cold air. I did not mean to do that so quickly, but we see a lot of cold air out ahead. We see also quite a bit of warm air into portions of the northeast. We see a high pressure that's centered right here, pumping moisture from the south. So there's moisture availability, there's cold availability. It sets the kind of the stage for a perfect winter storm, and the track obviously favors, in this case, a lot of northern Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, and Kansas in terms of that heavy snow. Let me just show you what the GFS shows, and let me tell you the models are pretty remarkably in line. There are a few differences though in terms of strength and track that we still have to watch for. So notice the GFS this is now early New Year's Day. So New Year's Eve, if that's kind of the day that a lot of people go out and about. New Year's Eve ringing in the New Year. So, most of the United States should be fine from this winter storm. Even if you have winter storm watches across Missouri or Kansas, this won't begin till New Year's Day for many. It will be already occurring for New Year's Eve across the southwest, so that is definitely something that I wanted to point out. But notice that for Kansas, Kansas City, Nebraska, early New Year's Day, right? And then really reaching Chicago, Indiana, right? Northern Indiana, Des Moines, potentially Milwaukee, maybe Michigan, cities in Michigan, by New Year's Day. And in the afternoon, the further north and east you go, and the later, it arrives. Notice that this thing is, it's popping off. We have a lot of ice, a lot of freezing rain with this thing. Where that rain meets that snow, it's not just going to be a clean transition area, so there is a growing ice threat. Oklahoma City, again, mainly a rain situation for you, but you can see Kansas City, Wichita, Salina, Kansas, maybe Omaha picking up some decent amounts of snow from this. Notice moving into Illinois, Michigan, Detroit, Indiana, Ohio, Toledo area by Sunday, or yeah, Sunday afternoon, sorry, Saturday afternoon, and by Sunday this thing it's quick moving, right? But the snowfall rates are going to be maximized because of the cold air from the north and warm air from the south. The convergence is going to be able to squeeze out a lot. Notice it's abating Kansas City by early Sunday, right? Meaning very early, 1 a.m., so you could call it also late Saturday. And moving into the northeast. Now again, this won't be affecting the coastal areas, at least this part of the storm, but it will bring snow to Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Quebec, all those cities up aligned into southeastern Canada, that corridor. They will see some snow, but it is weakening that system at that point. And by Sunday, midday, it's mostly done across the Midwest, just a bit of lake effect potentially into Illinois and Indiana and across the other Great Lakes. Now, this is where things get interesting. At this point, the system is starting to dissipate for the northern half of the country, or the areas that saw it, or saw the first wave. And let me show you the total snowfall. You can see this is a GFS. Now, this may not seem too impressive from the snowfall totals, but I do want to say that the GFS is a kind of a lighter scenario in terms of some of the snowfall, and this is assuming a 10-to-1 ratio, which some of this will be higher, and that is inevitable. It will be falling at a for much of Illinois, Indiana, and especially the northern kind of half of the snow slot, it will be falling at a 15-to-1 ratio, maybe even further, a 20-to-1. And that would, you could pretty much multiply some of these amounts by 1.5. So if you're seeing 6 across Kansas and you have cold air, or you could multiply that 1.5 and you'd be seeing 9 instead. It's all about kind of like that fluffiness, if you will, of the snow. So let's go back, and now again, we do have a very strong jet stream, which kind of caused this first system to occur, and we do have a little piece of energy, and that thing takes opportunity as quick as it pretty much can. And notice that as soon as this thing's dissipating by late Sunday into early Monday, we have a system that's across very deep into the south, according to the GFS. Again, far out, but notice Mississippi, Alabama, especially northern portions, Tennessee, into Kentucky, seeing a decent amount of snow, actually potentially very heavy snowfall. We're now notice this shifts towards the Appalachian Mountains, into North Carolina, into the Virginias, and it kind of just skirts off the coast. Now, this is just one scenario. Let me show you the GFS from, say, yesterday midnight and what it showed. Again, right, there's our system, moves away. We do see very heavy snow from that little system across the south. This thing develops into mid-Atlantic. Lots of snow for Virginia, the Northeast, the mid-Atlantic, and then boom. If a scenario like this were to occur, let me show you the total snowfall out of that. That would be very significant and very heavy snowfall. They're definitely something we would have to watch for. Now, again, with the more recent model runs, some of that snow has been kind of trended a bit lighter of a scenario, right? And notice that it's still there, definitely something to watch for. But also a bit lighter with the mounts across the north. It's a bit of a weaker system potentially, with some of the models showing that, and especially you could see that on the European, which I'll show you in just a second. But again, this is the GFS, just for you to get a refresher on how this worked. The track, you can see obviously a lot of rain where that does occur. And, you know, it's funny because some of these locations could get absolutely downpoured with rain from that first wave of this system. Right, Kentucky, Tennessee, whatnot, and then they could get a snowstorm out of the second wave of the system. So that would definitely not be the best case scenario, but we will have to wait and see. Notice Canadian, this is a different model, shows that system, those 2 waves by Saturday. Again, Sunday, it is occurring. It kind of gets out of there. Notice it turns into a very elongated system. We do have lake effect, and we do have that little second wave, which the Canadian does show, just like the GFS, even further south, but it doesn't really intensify it, and it takes the energy off the coast. Is it, you know, is it a possibility that this wave kind of moves to the north and east and really does intensify into more of a nor'easter? It's definitely a possibility, but at this point, no models are really showing that, so it's not really a likely possibility. With the Canadian model, let me show you the total. Well, yeah, let's take a look at the rainfall. You can see very significant, especially across the Ohio Valley and kind of lower Mississippi Valley, a widespread swath of 2 to 4 inches of rain, not even snow, just rain. And the snow, you can see Canadian does show that swath of a very decent amount of snow, right? That's anywhere from 6 to maybe 12 in that heaviest, so that quarter in that pink. And then in those blue colors and purple colors, you know, still decent amounts. Detroit, 5-6 inches maybe. And again, I'm multiplying this by 1.5 for a lot of these locations, as it is going to be a fluffy storm. And, you know, looking at these models, you may be thinking, okay, this isn't a massive system. But the thing is that if you were to look at the what the National Weather Service shows, so this is basically the National Weather Service snowfall forecast in model format. They show a lot of snow. Honestly, I'm surprised that they're this aggressive with this early on, because this thing is still more than 48 hours from occurring for a lot of the plain states here. Again, it will be already snowing earlier on as the system is, you know, moving progressively throughout time across the United States. But As we go to hour 66, which is again pretty far out, we start seeing that some of these amounts are already very high from the National Weather Service. Anywhere in that purple is from 6 to 12 inches. No pinks yet, but I'm assuming with the lake enhancement across, say, Illinois, there could be some 12-inch amounts by the time this would be done. And again, at hour 66, it's still going on for at least a bit more. So, I would say this is more aggressive on it, and with what the models are kind of showing, because let me show you the European, and you would really understand where I'm coming from. So the European, it does show that phasing, right? Very intense rain, but on that snowy side, it keeps it a lot weaker. It's very similar track, so at least the track is still there, but it's lighter, the snow. Notice how it's just quicker, it's not as strong, there's a bit of lake effect, and it does show that second wave, potentially, of that storm, but it's just a bit of a more progressive system, making it lighter with those snowfall amounts. And notice, with that 10-to-1 ratio, it really only ends up showing a few areas getting over 6 inches, which is still a significant event, the first one of the season for many of these locations. It's just not as impressive. And now again, this is assuming in 10-to-1, which it will be a bit higher than that. Let me show you the GFS of snowfall amounts, assuming a 10-to-1, which I did show you on other website. Right? But let me show you the Kuchera, and notice how these amounts get bumped up to, in many locations, 13, 14 inches. That's the more accurate one, because a lot of these locations will be seeing fluffier snow, especially across Kansas. This may look like, 6-5 inch event, it's decent, but when you turn on the Kuchera ratios, and wow, you see it really is a much more significant event, which of course the National Weather Service accounts for, but this is still one of the more aggressive things I've seen from the National Weather Service, when usually they like to kind of go a bit lighter with the amounts up until they get more confidence. So obviously this is why I'm a bit, my confidence is also a bit higher in this system versus what the models are showing, and or at least kind of the big ones that I showed you. Again, European 10-to-1 ratio, so we can't have a Kuchera on this one, unfortunately. You could still see decent amounts. Well, that's the start of a new system that could be occurring. But again, that's the one. You can see it doesn't show really much snow across the south, but definitely a possibility still with that second set, that second wave. I do want to show you some high-res models. So there's the thing called the NAM 12KM. It's a high-range model. It goes out to 84 hours. Or sorry, it's a high-res model, not high range. It's very short range. It doesn't go out far, but it's more accurate, supposedly, right? And notice that what it does do, again, it's very similar timing, everything. Here's a time frame. This is Friday at midnight. This is now Friday 1 a.m., or I should say 3 a.m., 6 a.m. Right now, this is around 9 a.m. This is 12 p.m. This is 3 p.m. And I hope you're just kind of tracking along, noticing that it's still quiet up until Friday, 9 p.m. Tomorrow, so New Year's, right, ringing that in. This is tomorrow at 6 p.m. This is 9 p.m. This is 12 a.m. So snow spreading at this point into Denver, right, in Nebraska, much of Colorado. Rain across the south, so that will start impacting your New Year's Eve. And by New Year's Day, this thing starts acting up. I want to say that the NAM is one of the more northern scenarios with the system. Notice it takes that rain snow line way into northern Illinois and brings it into Iowa. That's snow, Wisconsin. It's not really a trend with the other models, so this seems to be an outlier that doesn't really have much significance on the forecast. But definitely a possibility, since it is showing up. And notice that the NAM has trended more towards the north, right? The morning one was a bit further towards the south. The noon one is even a bit further towards the north. So we'll just have to wait and see whether or not this trend continues. But it does show a pretty nasty system, and with those Kuchera snowfall amounts, these snowfall amounts are rather significant. You could see a widespread. Again, this one's pretty far to the north, but again, it doesn't seem supported, but a widespread 8 to kind of 12 inches of snow. Now let's take a look at another model, HV3 FV3. This is a very good model. I can only look at it regionally wise, so let's take it out to Sunday or Saturday late in the night. And again, at this given point, the system is still occurring. Notice, for the most part, especially across Illinois and Michigan and Wisconsin, a bit into Iowa and Missouri still. And the total Kuchera, which is, again, that more accurate snowfall, already shows, a lot of snow, which some of these amounts aren't even done yet, across much of Iowa, Kansas, and Nebraska, 8, 9, 10 inches. And then it already shows decent amounts across Chicago, even though that system is still kind of mid-swing. So it looks as though the short-range models basically are a bit more aggressive than the long-range models. So, and that makes sense, because the National Weather Service wouldn't just put out the higher forecast for no reason, right? And I do want to show you now the RDPS, the Canadian version of the high res. And do note that there are some pretty significant amounts here, especially across Missouri and Iowa. It shows widespread amounts over a foot. Whether or not this is the case, it's tough to tell. I wouldn't say that this is likely, though, that over a foot widespread. I do think there will be localized amounts over a foot, as that's always possible with banding. And let me just show you the track of this system, kind of according to this model, and now we could finally show you the national view instead of just being regionally focused. So again, right, very similar timing. I already went through that. Let me just show you what's the difference between this system. Notice it shows that rain first, followed by that snow and ice. It does develop it. It shows a lot more ice than other models. This may be a bit overdone with this model, but let's see. Notice right there, booms, there's that system. It tracks through. Again, very long. We have that snow stretch from pretty much Missouri, Kansas City, all the way into off the coast of Canada. And again, we do have lake effect across Illinois a bit, that enhancement off the lake onto the west coast of Lake Michigan, which doesn't happen too often, so that again, don't get caught off surprise by that. And it does start showing that potential second storm, which we'll have to wait for and watch because it's still a bit further out. Definitely even a little bit of snow would kind of cause a havoc there. UK Met, UK Meteorological Model. Again, I'm showing you many models because you have to look at many models for a storm like this. If you were to look at just like the NAM model, right, you might think that this system is more north, which was that more northern scenario. But if you look at the other ones, you see it's an outlier, so it's all perspective. Notice UK Met, assuming a 10-to-1 ratio, which again isn't the most accurate one, especially further west. These amounts probably multiply by 2 or 3. Yeah, that's how significant some of the ratios can be. Notice it does show a very similar track to the other ones, a bit towards the north compared to, I guess, the average, but still very in line. Again, some of those amounts seem very light, but notice that the National Weather Service is going pretty aggressively with these amounts, and I would say that they're still going to go up slightly, probably, realistically, for many of these locations. And if there are, big updates, these could go up quite a bit. I can't show you the kind of overall averaged look. So this is the EPS members. These are many models combined, overlapped on top of each other to show us what the trends are with the system. Right? And notice that with the most recent one, there has been a weakening for the European ones. They have showed a lot less with the snow than some of the other models. Now, and you can see that from the same time frame yesterday, it showed more snow. You're gonna notice that it showed a widespread area of 5 inches. Now it shows a bit less, right? And then in terms of track, though, at least it's just varying in intensity, because look at the track, your kind of placement. It's still very similar from exactly 24 hours ago, so that's good at least. And it's just that it has been kind of weakening a bit, which again is a possibility. We'll have to see, though. It's not supported by, say, the GFS ensembles, which again is a bunch of many models combined, overlapped on top of each other, just from a different family of models. And notice that right there, right? This is the track from today. This is the one from today in the morning. You can see the intensity has relatively stayed the same. Maybe that bullseye shifted a bit, kind of around, and maybe this one was a bit stronger yesterday in the evening. But overall, I mean, come on, let's stay here. Overall, this thing was in terms of track placement and strength on the GFS ensembles, it's relatively the same. Again, this is assuming just snowfall. I don't know if they have a Kuchera option on here. They don't, but that would be the more accurate one to click on it for this case with this snowstorm. Now, I can show you, say, individual GFS models, which I sometimes do this just for the fun of it. It kind of shows you every single one and shows you, obviously, the most aggressive, the least aggressive. I can only do regional with this one as well, so again, I'm a bit unfortunate, but let's take a look at the snowfall footprint from this, and let's just compare systems, right? So you can see some ensembles show a very weak system with only a few inches and a very widespread area. Look at that, the E24 right there. That is very non-significant. And then some show a bit more significant. Quite a bit of snow across Iowa, say Missouri, right? And then some show a bit further towards the south. And then some show what the National Weather Service thinks will kind of happen, just more aggressively. And you can see that again, this does vary quite a bit with each model. So there are still differences, and this thing probably will still change in the next 24 to 48 hours. There are even maybe some big differences. We'll have to wait and see. Same thing with the European. I could click on these individual models and show you that they still vary precipitation type and precip. So this is the let's see. Let's take a look at yesterday's model run, because the new one for midnight or for noon today is not loading. But notice that, let's take a look at P7. Why did I look at P7? I don't know. Let's just take a glance. And then notice, boom, right there we have that system. Notice, tracks through much of the Midwest. Again, with that track that is similar to what the National Weather Service thinks, maybe a bit further or further towards the south. Now let's take a look at P15. Pretty good model ensemble, right? No, I don't know. This is just a random one of many. And let's just take a look at it. Boom, you can see right there. There we have that rain, we have that snow, a very intense system, and then that kind of skedaddles out of here. I do want to take a look at that P20, or let's just take a look at the P20s, maybe. I don't let's see if we can find like a weaker scenario. Yeah, see right there, that would definitely be a weaker scenario. Look at this one. It takes that system, it's very sheared out, it's very quick to kind of produce a little bit of snow, and then it's done. And that would be obviously a very, very light snowfall maker, which again, doesn't seem likely at this point, but it's still a possibility. Notice it's more of a possibility to have a stronger system like this one. You can see, boom, right there, heavier snow. Still on the lighter side, and then it gets out of here. I actually want to, I want to click on that lighter scenario again and see what has been a trend with that one, say with yesterday's model run. Because if it did go from stronger to weaker, then it's definitely a bit of an interesting sign. And in fact, it did. You could see yesterday was stronger at noon. So that is interesting why it went to weaker. And some models are still showing it stronger. So you can see sometimes, again, I mentioned this a few days ago, if you recall, that sometimes models may seem to be more agreed on something. Look at the one it showed the day before that, even stronger system. They may seem to be agreed on something, and then even once they're agreed on it, they don't get more agreed on it, right? They just start splitting apart, and that's what we're kind of seeing right now. So we'll have to wait and see which trend this goes into. We'll have to wait till we get into the very, very high res. Some of these models that go out only to 48 hours. Again, still a bit too early for that, but definitely something we'll have to watch for. But yeah, otherwise that is basically it for today's video. Again, I just want to reiterate kind of some of the headlines. A lot of snow for the Southwest. You could see New Mexico. We do have winter storm watches, right? Obviously not for everyone, but mainly the higher elevations. We're right there, the mountains east and west of, say, Santa Fe. You could see a lot of snow. You could see 2 to 4. And then again, Friday night snow. They're not showing the snowfall amounts, but if you're to take a look at the winter storm warning, they could show the total ones, which 8 to 12 inches. And again, the higher snowfall amounts, the further up you go in elevation, potentially up to several feet. Colorado Rockies, again, also a pretty significant snowstorm, especially for the mountains. San Juan Mountains, potentially well over 3 feet of snow. And then we do have those winter storm watches across much of this area. That's snow to the north, not as much snow, mainly cold. That cold will be dangerous. So if you live across Kansas and northern Missouri, get prepared for this winter storm. St. Louis, southern Missouri, central Missouri, if it's a more southern scenario, you could get some snow, but it could also be more of an ice threat. So that's definitely still concerning, and you could see that the St. Louis National Office does point out that ice threat. And then further towards the south, Kentucky, Indiana areas, it's more of a flood threat, at least for now. You may see that second wave with that system redeveloping with that kind of that second band, as I showed you with some of the models. And I want to see if the National Weather Service mentions that. Yeah, you can see that they do show that. So we'll have to wait and see. But again, it's a possibility. So that's basically it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay tuned to the National Weather Service, especially when the models are changing. And I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya.